Good evening. This is the Guilford, Connecticut Board of Education. It is Monday, March 13th. First item is to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Next item is to act on minutes. Is there a motion to approve the February 13th, 2023 Board of Education minutes? So moved.
Second.
Any comments or corrections on these minutes? I have none. No. All right, so we have a motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Mr. Petra is abstaining. So we have 6. Who's Mr. Petra is abstaining, was not here. All right. Is there a motion to approve the February 27th, 2023 Board of Education meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second. Any corrections or comments on those? No? All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that everybody? Any in opposition? And abstentions? No. Okay. Public forum on topics on the board agenda only. If anyone would like to address the board on topics on the agenda, you're certainly invited to come up now. All right, I'm not seeing anyone. Hi, Kristen. So number 5, review and I am going to pause. I'm so sorry. I do have a request of the board, and I was supposed to start with this. I am going to ask the board to add an executive session to the board agenda. We had a staged distribution of the board agenda. The one on our Guilford Public Schools website for tonight did not have the executive session on it. So I am going to ask to add an executive session at the end of the meeting today. It would come after the public comment, obviously, but before adjournment for the purposes of pending litigation. May I have a motion to add an executive session to the meeting tonight?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's it. Thank you. So sorry. I am now going to turn to Dr. Hirsch for review and approval of the expenditures for the month of February.
Thank you. This was, we discussed this as a board in our operations meeting at 6 o'clock. The expenditures for the month of February were $5,513,604.59. And expenditures through the end of January were 62% of the budget, compared to almost exact same percentage last year. Salaries, employee benefits, purchase services, tuition, capital, transportation, all those lines are within line of last year's expenditures at any time. There were essentially no major questions to be asked on the budget. We had some what appeared to be high percentages of spending, all of which have been answered. We spent, for example, 71% of our budget on building supply, teacher supplies, but that's because we did early orders. We had a site improvement expenditure that seemed out of line, but that's because there's some asbestos being taken care of at Baldwin. Other than that, the budget was in line.
All right. As Dr. Hirsch mentioned, we did discuss this in detail in the Board of Ed Operations Committee meeting just prior to this meeting. But I do want to open the floor for any questions or further discussion from my colleagues. All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the February 2023 financial reports for fiscal year 2022-23?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? None. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Hirsch. Okay, we are up to communications. I do want to take the opportunity to just explain a couple of the communications that we have gotten and a response to those, and then certainly open up to my colleagues for other communications they may have received. The Board of Education has received 29 email communications in the last 2 weeks expressing concern about the banning of books. We have received 2 emails criticizing books in our libraries. These 29 email communications have referenced complaints seen on social media about some books available in Guilford Public School libraries. Neither the Board of Education nor the Guilford Public Schools Administration has received any request to remove any book from any of our school libraries. Per Board of Education policy, the board recognizes, in quotes, recognizes the student's right to free access to many different types of materials, end quote. And the board is disinclined to remove such access. However, should Guilford Public Schools receive any specific request for reconsideration of any specific texts, the board will hear and carefully consider the request and proceed in accordance with appropriate Board of Education policy and procedure. The email communications received by the board, these 29, several of them have also voiced support for Guilford Public School librarians, noting the presence of comments on social media attacking them. I have personally seen some of these comments on social media, and I must state that I am appalled at the attacks on and insinuation about our school librarians. These professional educators conduct their jobs with great care and expertise, and vicious attacks on their character or job performance based on the presence of particular books in our school libraries is unjustified and undeserved. Lastly, to those of you in our community who have reached out to us in some of these emails with concern about the banning of books that relay the experience of people in the LGBTQ+ community, communities of color, or in religious or ethnically diverse communities, the board is committed to providing a high-quality education and a safe, supportive, and welcoming school environment to all students. We are aware that there are other communities across our country where limitations on educational offerings and book access related to the experience of these minority communities have been implemented. These actions stand in sharp contrast to this board's commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and to our goal of striving for educational excellence. So I did want to respond to those emails we have received with that message. I do want to open up to my colleagues if they've received any other communications that they want to mention over the last.
I think in most cases, we were mostly all copied. Some emails went only to you, Dr. Ballas-Tracy, but most of them came to all of us. And just want to reiterate the statement that Dr. Ballas-Tracy just shared. It's, I believe, the sentiment of all of us sitting here. I'll speak for myself. And the idea that we would take away the freedom to read and explore texts in our public school district is not something that we would take lightly. And we do have policies in place for reviews of text if someone would like to submit that. But overall, the idea of attacking a librarian verbally or on social media or otherwise, it's just unacceptable. And let's not go there. Let's not let that be the kind of community that we are. And let's support our educators. Let's support our librarians because they are educators, and let's support our kids. And I thank you for all the communication that we received.
Any other communications that people have received that we haven't noted? All right. Number 7, student representative. Good evening. How are you?
Good, how about you, Dennis?
Great.
Okay, so I can start. At Guilford Lakes, all kindergarten through 4th graders got the opportunity to write wonderings and draw about space, and their note cards are going to actually get flown to space and hopefully return before summer break with a stamp that says flown to space. So that's a fun activity. Some paleontologists came and talked to second graders, I believe, in the last couple of weeks. They also recently, I think Tuesday, a Yale scientific outreach program went to Lakes to do a chromatography experiment, and where they solved a mystery involving ink pens. And then they also learned about inertia, momentum, and other physics-related subjects. And then at Melissa Jones, there was an assembly showcasing music with a Latin beat. And another assembly taught about Bessie Coleman, who was an American aviator in honor of Black History Month. A week ago, they had family fitness night where students, family, and staff came and participated in field day-like activities. And then lastly, kindergarten students presented weather stories to family, to different families during the Weather Expo on Friday night.
So at AW Cox, the AW Cox community celebrated Read Across America earlier this month with a school-wide assembly. They read aloud Calvin Can't Fly and incorporated the theme of love that they had previously incorporated for the month of February, belonging and inclusion into the discussion around the messages of the book. They will continue to focus on the theme of love for the month of March, as well as having a whole wide school assembly at the end of the month to create a project that pulls each person's uniqueness and individuality together. Finally, faculty is excited to share student growth in progress at the parent-teacher conferences on March 30th and March 31st. Then at Adams, they're finishing up their tournament based on Adams Cares slogan, focusing on community, attitude, respect, effort, and scholarship. Students have worked each week to demonstrate positive attributes of these characteristics. Adams is just about to commence spring sports, where they will be hosting informational meetings this coming week and the next coming weeks for softball, baseball, and track. A very exciting piece of news is that Adams student writers won 12 awards, including 4 medals for writing submissions to the Connecticut Student Writers Magazine. These submissions included a variety of works of literature, and many of these students participate in their writer's block after school club. The National Junior Honor Society is hosting a Pi Day contest tomorrow, March 14th, on Pi Day, where students will complete to recite as many digits as possible, the pi number. And they also had a very fun staff versus students basketball game right before the February break, and they will be having another staff versus student volleyball game in April.
Starting off with Baldwin for this month, several students there participated in the district's STEAM Challenge, which held its sharing event at Guilford High School last week. It was a wonderful evening for students across the district to share what they had learned by participating in the challenge. At the end of the month, the BMS PTO is sponsoring a science fair at Baldwin. This will provide another opportunity for students to explore an area of interest, do research or conduct experiments, and share what they learned with the community. Many thanks go to the science teacher, Patty McLaughlin, who won a school visit from members of the Connecticut Sun basketball team through the Connecticut Education Association. Members of the Sun visited Baldwin on Thursday, March 2nd, and our 5th graders worked on basketball skills and teamwork. There's a new club at Baldwin. With the help and support of the PTO who purchased the instruments, they've added a ukulele club. The club is facilitated by the Spanish teacher, Joe Flood, and meets for the first time tomorrow. The club will provide students with the opportunity to explore social music making with the ukuleles. Students will be taught the basics of tuning, chording, and strumming as an accompaniment to singing. And at Calvin Lee, NBC Connecticut's chief meteorologist, Ryan Hanrahan, visited the kindergarten classes mid-February. Kindergarteners are studying weather wonders around the world. They are developing knowledge about a variety of weather, how weather impacts people's lives, and how to prepare for it. Mr. Hanrahan visited this week to deepen student learning and give students a real-world connection. 2nd grade students have been learning about Africa as part of their studies of Black history. The 3 2nd grade classes have been collaborating to read and make meaning out of a book called Africa is Not a Country. They have learned about the diverse cultures within the African continent and the uniqueness of various African cultures, in addition to the similarities between these cultures and our own. And Calvin Lee is thrilled that it is the Connecticut State Primary School Team Champion in the 2023 Connecticut Scholastic Team Chess Championships. Congrats go to team members Rylan Chang in the 1st grade, Leroy Chang in the 2nd grade, and Luke Bartek, a 3rd grader. Since the K-3 and K-5 sections were merged in the tournament, Rylan, Leroy, and Luke had to play students sometimes much older than they were. And all players played 5 matches each. And as a team, they won 13 out of 15 matches for the 1st place.
That's impressive.
And right here at GHS, intramural volleyball is starting up soon. That's the follow-up to intramural basketball. It'll be fun to watch. The Science Olympiad did very well at their first competition. Not the first competition, at their state's competition. They got 7th out of 34 teams, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, the winter sports are all finishing up right now. I know the fencing team got 1st overall for the state this year again. They're doing excellently.
Yes.
I think also, I know the robotics team, their competition season is beginning. The musical's coming up starting the 24th. And there's a big music concert coming up this Friday at Choate in Colony Hall.
As well, to celebrate Black History Month, students actually confronted administrators to ask if we could do a Spirit Week to celebrate Black History Month, where each day commemorated a different kind of Spirit Day. One where we had trivia during school lunches about certain fun facts about prominent Black leaders and people in our country. And this is to bring more awareness to what Black History Month truly means and to bring more awareness to those who don't necessarily know why we have a Black History Month.
Ruby, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
So that occurred this past February, or you want it to occur next
It
year?
did.
Oh,
It did occur,
terrific.
yeah.
Excellent. Wonderful. Any questions for?
I
Very
just noticed in the
informative panel.
cafeteria that there was on the video screens, there was images of Black History Month and different facts, and they were scrolling through.
Yeah.
So that was all you guys, so that's great.
It's shifted to Women's History Month this month.
Right.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's always great to hear. And I must say, as I was reviewing the minutes yesterday from last month, it's like, oh, that's right. It's great. It's wonderful to see all the stuff that's happening. So thank you so very much.
Of course.
As you hear me say, everyone, you're welcome to stay, but also we understand how busy you are. So if you need to leave, but thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Freeman, Superintendent's report, budget update.
Yeah, my report will be much shorter than that one. So last week, Dr. Balistraci and business office and I joined the Board of Finance and the representatives of town leadership to present the overall budgets. We made those presentations on Monday evening, and then on Thursday evening, the Board of Finance deliberated and adopted their final budget. The Board of Finance did take action to adjust our Board of Education budget. Your budget, this Board of Ed's approved budget was adjusted with the reduction of $100,000. That brings the final proposed budget for next year to $68,666,172. That will represent an increase over this current budget year of $3,036,438, or a percent increase of 4.63%. Mr. Bowden and Mrs. Trudeau and I will begin putting together a recommendation of adjustments for this board so that we will suggest areas where we can make reductions to meet that new lowered overall number of $100,000. We will have those for you at an upcoming meeting. If necessary, we may request a special meeting so that we can have those finalized line items approved before the budget moves forward to the rest of the community at town meeting and then at referendum, which is scheduled for April.
Right. Okay.
The only thing I want to add is I again want to thank all of the membership, all the members of our leadership team in the administration, all the members of this Board of Education, and then all the community members who participated in the budget process this year. I noted for the Board of Finance that we had a significant number of community members who came out and participated, and particularly a number of students, and in particular student athletes who participated in the process this year. I want to thank everybody who put time and effort into that. And I want to encourage everybody in the community to continue paying attention to the budget process and to participate by voting in the referendum in April.
Any questions for Dr. Freeman on, or just on the?
Just a reminder of the budget, the referendum date, it's April 14th.
I don't have Mrs. Trudeau to look down.
Just because we have on camera, it'd be nice to remind everybody. It's
I don't
We
have
can look it
that.
up.
Yeah,
We can
I'm
look it
sure
up.
I did not bring my budget books to this meeting. I thought that it was safe to put them aside.
Finally, after we've been lugging them around for,
okay. Maybe the 11th,
no,
No,
because I think we have,
18th,
I think it's 18,
18th,
Thank you.
Tuesday, the 18th.
because
That
we
sounds
have,
right.
Mhm.
April, the town tries to avoid April
Right.
vacation. Okay.
That sounds correct.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
excellent. Any other comments on the budget? All right, so, we will then identify either in an upcoming meeting or a meeting, because we will, as a board, need to vote on where to take that $100,000 reduction from.
We'll make specific
Yep.
recommendations to you so that you can make those decisions.
Okay, excellent, thank you. All right, up to board agenda. I am gonna do this separately. 9.1 is to receive a request to waive the bid process for copy machines. That's what it says on the agenda. But indeed, we identified in our operations committee meeting that we are in fact simply waiving the local board typical bidding process because Guilford Public Schools has been reviewing bids from state approved bidders.
Correct.
So that what I'm going to ask for now then is a motion to waive simply the local board bidding process as we are reviewing bids from state approved bidders. Is there a motion?
So moved.
The second?
Second.
All in favor? Hi. Everybody? Okay, terrific. Then number 9.2 is to act on a copy machines and printers lease. We discussed this in some detail in the operations committee meeting. There are 3 companies that Guilford Public Schools was considering. They are deciding to go with Prism Office Solutions. As I speak, I'm going to look at Ms. Ashley Bannon, who's going to correct me if I say anything incorrect. But this is our current lease includes 35 copiers and 12 printers. This will allow us to purchase 3 copiers and up to 12 printers so that we can take copiers in the district that were off lease or were donated and replace those. The important factors that were considered when choosing a copier vendor: the quality and manufacture of copiers, the quality of the service, looking for a local company, availability to provide equipment. I suppose many in the community are aware of supply chain issues. They certainly hit us here in Guilford Public Schools as well. Additional features, services to help us reduce wasteful printing, price, as you can imagine, and toner replacement. So this would be a 60-month lease, again, with Prism Office Solutions in Branford, Connecticut. And we've identified a per monthly payment, which includes the lease, includes copiers, includes equipment at an estimated total of $9,214 a month. So we are being asked to act on the administration's ability to then take this Prism Office Solutions for a copier and printer lease. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I understand that there's a savings, there's a monthly saving, there's a yearly savings of $20,000.
We've heard that approximately, right, that we could expect it. Thank you.
Based over the budget number, when we first prepared the budget, we project this will result in a savings of approximately $20,000. Again, that's based on monthly usage, but correct.
Also, I'd like to comment that they did obtain 3 prices.
Yes,
from 3 different state approved bidders.
right.
So it really is a competitive process.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Thank
you. Any other comments? All right, so I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Everybody? Yes, that is everyone. Wonderful, thank you. 9.3 is to approve a donation of $1,232.88 from the Adams Yearbook Club for the purchase of a new carpet with a logo on it.
Logo is included in your packet.
Yes. All right, and so I am gonna ask for, it has the Adams School Raiders with the, yes, I don't know if it can be grabbed by the camera.
And this is a donation by the Yearbook Club.
Yes, it is by the Adams Yearbook Club, again, in the amount of $1,232.88.
Where will this be displayed?
I would assume in the front hall, but I will need to check with Dr. Mullen to confirm that.
Okay.
All right. So is there a motion to approve this donation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that it? That's it. Okay, wonderful. 9.4 is to act on the ratification of local 1303 of Council Number 4 American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees AFL-CIO contract. This is our custodial contract. Dr. Hirsch, are you able to tell us a little bit about what we're voting on tonight?
After multiple months of negotiations, we were, and going to mediation, we've agreed to a 3-year contract. In year 1, there's a 2.65% increase in wages. Second year, 2.85, and the third year, 3.0. That's somewhere in the midpoint of what we've been seeing other districts that are comparable to us. As well, some custodial people get extra stipends depending on the nature of their job, and we've increased the stipends 2% the first year, 2% the second year, and 3% the third year.
And I will note that, which occasionally happens because sometimes these contracts take time to get negotiated, that this is actually a 3-year contract that is then retroactive to July 1st, 2022.
Exactly right.
Okay. Mr. Bone, do you have anything to add?
There is a slight premium cost share increase at.
Oh,
Oh, in the insurance,
the
yes.
employee, in year 1, there's no change compared to where we are now. There's a 0.75% increase to employees the second year, and a 0.75% increase the third year in their contributions.
Correct.
Right.
Each of us on the board have received a full copy of the agreement with track changes representing as well language changes that were made in the course of this negotiation and mediation. Is there a motion to approve this agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions, comments, discussion on this? Right, hearing none, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. That is everybody. All right, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I just want to take a moment to thank Dr. Hirsch, Mr. Petra, and Mrs. Peck for the numerous meetings we had, and also to thank the custodial maintenance team that negotiate their side for the time that they put in and the care they put into our negotiations.
Wonderful. No, that's really important. Thank you so much. Okay. Policy Committee, up next. 9.5 is to receive recommendations from the Policy Committee.
Okay, we had a very fruitful policy meeting a couple of weeks ago. What you have in front of you tonight are revisions to policy 1138, which is on public participation at meetings. The way that we conduct it is not changing very much. We're just kind of codifying it and making it official. So noteworthy items. The goal of public participation is for us to hear from the public, not necessarily to engage in conversation with the public. It's an opportunity for folks from the town to come and speak to us, not necessarily for us we don't need to listen to ourselves, we need to listen to the folks coming. So that's really the goal of the amendments that we've made. We will have 30 minutes on any given topic that is on the board's agenda at the beginning of the meeting, like we do now. And then we'll have an additional 30 minutes at the end of the board agenda for topics that anyone in the town would like to discuss with us. So again, that's not changing beyond what we've got now. We're just kind of putting some real parameters to it, asking folks to limit their conversation to 3 minutes as they get up, and asking folks to identify themselves either with a verbal announcement or by jotting down their name and address on a sign-up sheet.
Ms. Peck, just to be clear, that 30 minutes can be extended with a simple vote of the board present. And these changes stem from a meeting we had with Tom Mooney about a year ago, who went through a number of our policies and bylaws and made suggested amendments to us.
Yeah, okay. So this is a received item from the policy committee tonight. Any of us who, particularly not on the policy committee, who have questions or thoughts, concerns, let's make sure, can we reach out to you?
Yes, absolutely.
So that when it is an item on next month's meeting for a vote, those concerns have been addressed in the meantime. All right, thank you. And then you have I think 9.5.2 here.
Yes, so 9.52 is the removal of the policy and regulation number 4176. If everyone recalls from our last meeting, we adopted new policy and regs for Title IX. So this is just eliminating the old ones.
The old ones, okay. All right,
We need to vote on them.
we typically need to.
It's also a receipt only. Yeah, we could vote on them both.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
I'm up again.
That's right. I'm about to turn to you again, aren't I? Okay, so reports of committees, policy committee.
Policy committee, let's see, our next meeting is in a few weeks. The other noteworthy item that we discussed without actually being really ready to present to the full board, but we will be working on further is non-resident students. So if we've got people who are certified personnel here in the district, whether or not they may be able to bring their kids to the district if we have room in a particular grade. So that's something we're discussing.
Okay,
So if anyone wants to come to the next policy meeting and talk about that.
and let's remind everyone when that is. Is that this month? What's this month?
It'll be in April.
Oh, it's in April, the policy committee meeting. Okay, terrific.
And that's it, really. I mean, you've heard everything else from the policy committee. We've seen it.
Right, okay, thank you. Mr. Del Ventura, anything to add on the operations committee?
I think two things to highlight is from dining services. Now that we have free and reduced school lunches, we are seeing a nice uptick in school usage for breakfast and lunch. And so, as we move forward and seeing exactly what the state is going to do, it is nice to know that it's actually getting full use by the students.
Great.
We got a very lengthy report by Cliff on our facilities. To note, we are finishing up the Baldwin security project. Once that is finished, we'll look to begin to implement that at the other schools, understanding exactly what the full cost was using already bonded funds.
Correct.
So
Terrific, okay. Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee, Dr. Hurst, do you have anything to report out? Liaisons to town committees, anything to report from any town committees?
update for land acquisition.
Any others? Okay. And we still need an approach for the Learning Board of Directors. All right, so that is the end of report on committees. We're now up to public forum for anyone who would like to address the board. We do ask that you limit to 4 minutes, and we are going to have a timekeeper because we want to make sure that everyone has time to speak. I do ask that you, oh yes, thank you so much. We're going to ask for name and address when you come up to speak, and Dr. Freeman is going to provide a piece of paper. It's also very helpful to have it written down so that our note taker can have it written. I saw someone's hand raised. Was it a question around procedure? Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that people understand. Okay. Would you like- yeah.
So I'll keep time. I'll give everyone a hand raise when you've got about 30 seconds left.
All right.
There's no name.
I'm sorry.
Did I give you that?
Oh, that's not very helpful.
Hang on, I got it.
Okay.
Good thing you didn't give you a check.
Okay. Well, so I built my son on Jefferson Drive. So Ms. Dallas Tracy, thank you. I'm so happy you took the weight off my shoulders. I'm not one of the 29 people who sent that in. I'm happy about that. It's a good choice. Okay, I did a little bit of research, and this is from the Pew Center. I tried to choose the most neutral and reputable study center I could find. And I think Pew definitely qualifies. This study was done in June of last year, so it's very current. They found that 1.6 of US adults identify their sex as being different from the one they were assigned at birth. In the 18 to 29 year range, that was 5%. That's all. It used to be 2% and 3%. And now there's no real reason given why, but it is up to 5%. The study did not go below the age of 18. There's probably reasons for that, but it did not. So I can't give you those numbers. But if you extrapolate that out, Guilford High School has approximately 1,100 students. And that would equate to about 55 students who identify that way. To me, that's a lot of students. 55 is a big number, I think. My personal opinion is that these children need our love, support, and understanding. My question to the board is, and I know you can't answer, maybe I can get something at a later time, but what is your protocol when a child does divulge this information to you? Like what is the staff? What are their qualifications? It's a very, very serious issue. Should be treated as such. I'm just curious whether school is equipped at this point to deal with somebody going through something that traumatic. Do you have a written plan in place? If you do, I would be interested in reading it. And my next question is, you do have the books available. You brought that up. My question is, I just want to make it clear before the people come out of the woodwork. I am not in favor of book banning of any kind, any way, shape, or form. I'm not. I think information is great. Whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. All books are useful. If somebody wants to access it, probably. But I think a lot of times when you implement things, and I brought this up on a number of occasions, I don't think enough thought goes into the whole process where you say, all right, if we're going to do this, let's look a little bit down the road and see what the implications are. How's this going to help? How's it not going to help? So my question would be, why are you making books available to students who are 14 when they enter the high school? They're just 14 years old. Babies. Books, I must say, I've looked at them. And I'm not telling you to ban them, but I've looked at them. But by law, they would be considered pornography, except for one thing. They're illustrated and they do not contain photographs. That's what distinguishes it. Another question, what purpose do they serve? For example, if this were something I were dealing with and I got this book, how does that book help me? Because I have a book now, but I don't have any guidance with that book.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're at 4 minutes, so I'm gonna ask you to wrap it up. Thank you.
Can I wrap it up?
You can take about 10 more seconds, but we
Thank
have
you
a
very,
room
very
full of
much.
people that deserve a chance to
Okay,
speak.
it's really, really quick. I just look at, there's no medical or psychiatric basis to any of the books. There's none. And finally, why are they available as ebook downloads? No one knows about it. A parent has no idea if the child downloads this book. So I'm just wondering, is that a mistake or intentional? If it was a mistake, it's a really big mistake, and that's something you should have thought about. And I just ask you to please to start taking these issues seriously, because if a child is dealing with these issues, they deserve no less.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There's a step stool here.
Oh, no.
My name is Paula Tabor Pasica, and I live at 59 Joseph Drive here in town. I am currently a library paraprofessional at Baldwin Middle School, and I have a Master of Science degree in library science. Tonight, I address the Board of Education, our senior administration, and fellow community members as a 30-year resident of this town, the parent of a recent Guilford High School graduate, and as the parent of a current member of the Guilford High School junior class. Recently, as we've already discussed, a community member has publicly expressed concern via social media about several books she describes as, quote, obscene, sexually graphic, sexually explicit, containing graphic sexual content, and sexually charged. She believes these books are not appropriate for our school libraries and has publicly questioned the judgment, motives, and integrity of the educators responsible for making these books available to our students. I would like to thank this person for bringing public attention to these particular books, because nothing motivates a student to read a book more than being told they should not read that book. I will not speak tonight about the specific books that are being called into question, as I'm still in the process of actually reading them. It is very easy to select quotes and sound bites that can be taken out of context to intentionally incite and inflame public opinion and to forward personal agendas. Weber State University political scientist Dr. Richard Price states, and I quote, "For so many challengers, the danger in the books is that they dare to tell stories the challenger does not want to see," end quote. It is vitally important that these books are examined as complete works and without personal bias, toward the content or the context. This is a task that all professional librarians and library media specialists take very seriously. As a parent, I'm here tonight to express my full support for the educated, degreed, and experienced professionals who are making decisions about what to include on our school library shelves. A library's collection should reflect the needs of all patrons, and our students both need and deserve a varied collection of books that reflects and represents who they are, that shares experiences and viewpoints that are different from their own, and that will help teach them to be adaptable, responsible, understanding, empathetic, and knowledgeable global citizens. Over 30 years ago, Regine Sims Bishop, Professor Emerita of Education at The Ohio University, said, quote, "Books are sometimes windows, offering views of worlds that may be real or imagined, familiar or strange. These windows are also sliding glass doors, and readers have only to walk through in imagination to become part of whatever world has been created or recreated by the author. When lighting conditions are just right, however, a window can also be a mirror. Literature transforms human experience and reflects it back to us. And in that reflection, we can see our own lives and experiences as part of a larger human experience. Reading then becomes a means of self-affirmation, and readers often seek their mirrors in books," end quote. These words ring true today and should remind us of what we can see, learn, experience, and become through reading. And we should continue to support the educated professionals who are bringing such books to our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, good evening. My name is Lisa Kelly. I live at 1898 Jennifer's Drive, and I have 2 kids at A.W. Cox. But tonight I speak to you as someone who has worked for over 20 years in the children's book publishing industry. I am proud to work in an industry of professionals, artists, authors, creators who believe that every child deserves to see themselves reflected in the books that they read, to have their identities affirmed, and to be given windows into the experiences of others and the world around them. So it's particularly disheartening for me to hear that there are members of our community jumping on what feels like a national right-wing movement to remove books from libraries and classrooms, particularly ones that relate to the experience of the LGBTQ+ community. One title that this group seems to have latched onto is Flamer, a graphic novel for teens. Reading just a sampling of the reviews from real readers on places like Amazon can show you just how important a book like this is to stay on shelves. Here are just a few of the reviews. A gay childhood can seem like an endless, confidence-crushing battlefield, such as the background of Mike Curado's painful, beautiful, semi-autobiographical, easily digested graphic novel, a tale of just before high school summer at scout camp. For those who've been through something similar, Flamer is uncomfortably familiar and deeply moving. For those who haven't, it's a window into the world they need to see. For those who are going through it, it's a lifeline. Another review says, I wish this book was released when I was in high school, because this could have been a book that helped me realize I was never alone as a gay kid, that I would somehow get to accept who I was. And another review said, if I had this graphic novel as a teenager, I wouldn't have felt so alone. As an adult, I feel seen in a way that has helped heal some parts of my past when coming to terms with being gay. It's not about this specific book or any one book being challenged. It's about the right of free people to read freely. It's about intellectual freedom. It's about our teachers and librarians being able to connect to their students books that can help them feel seen and to give them a window into somebody else's experience. I ask that the Board of Education and our school administrator reject any efforts to ban or challenge books, to not allow a small group of people dictate what books other people's children are allowed to read. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Gloria Gibney. I live on Inwood Drive. I've lived in Guilford basically all my adult life. Had 3 children go through the Guilford school system. It was excellent. They're now in their 40s. So that was a long time ago. And I had no complaints at that time. It was an excellent, excellent school system for my children to be part of. I love Guilford. I consider it my home. I've been here since my adulthood. I come from Marietta, Ohio, a town very similar to it. The last few years, I have become more and more disillusioned with what's happening. And I've become aware of the questionable books that have just been referenced to that are in the Guilford Middle School libraries. So I decided to investigate. So I just selected one called The Lawn Boy, a novel by Jonathan Evison. And I carefully read through it and I took notes the entire time. Instead of being a guidebook with solutions to overcome mixed sexual identity, minority status, struggling family existences, or suggested pathways to overcome lack of educational or vocational training, the characters in this book, and in some cases, potential role models for Mike, the main character of the story, the book has in it the characters who are addicted to porn, gambling on sports games, doing drugs, bankrupt employers, and language that is vulgar. In the 308 pages, the following words and use of the words and phrases was as follows, and this is all quote and quoted words. 91 times the word fuck, fucker, or clusterfuck was stated. 76 times shit and its phrases were stated. 16 times dick and dickhead. 20 times. Quotes and unquotes, sucking dicks in your mouth, blow me, and cocksucker. 42 times, fag and gay. 25 times, ass on your face, stick it up your ass. 17 plus times, a variety. Drugs, pornography, pussy, nuts in your pants, nuts hanging out, pricks, cocks, etc. Samples of this disgusting pornography are as follows, and I have attached it and I have some handouts on page 66. And I'm just going to grab phrases not out of context because the entire page is full of the same language. Fuck, shit, fucking, suck, fuck, piss. I said to mom, my fucking mower is gone. Fuck mom, what if I get a fucking landscaping gig? Every other word out of your mouth is fuck. She's right, you know, said Freddie from the sofa where he was smoking a joint. Fuck you, Freddie.
We have 30 more seconds.
Page 20. This is from a camp. While he was at a camp. He took a slug of the whiskey and passed it to me. But dude, did you seriously put a guy's dick in your mouth? I passed the bottle back. I was in 4th grade. Fuck it. The fuck? Fuck, I hate Arians. Fuck that guy. I hope he drops dead.
Larry, we're at 4 minutes.
Page 230.
Lori, excuse
It
me,
was your idea
your 4
behind the
minutes are up,
parsonage.
please. Can you wrap it up? The 4
Yes, I
minutes are
will.
up.
You know, the youth group with the Bible songs and the crackers. Why won't you admit we sucked each other's dicks?
Gloria,
You
Gloria,
lured
we're
me
asking you
behind the
to
parsonage.
finish, please.
We talked to girls. We shared her. Why are you having a problem with this if this is in?
I'm not having a
We're at
problem.
4
We're at 4 minutes, we're at 4 minutes and I want other people to have an opportunity. That is our policy,
Well-
public forum.
I have extra copies. Anyone's welcome to it. I think it's disgusting. And it's not appropriate for our young people. They deserve so much better than this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nan Ellman. I live at 39 Willow Road. I have 2 graduates of Guilford High School and one. I guess he just started this transition program. He says he's not going through graduation until he's actually done with that, but we'll see. First, I actually want to just, because people seem a little confused about this, talk a little bit what actually constitutes obscenity, which I think is brought up with the suggestion that some of these books have pornography in them. According to the Justice Department's Citizens Guide to U.S. Federal Law on Obscenity, harmful materials for minors include any communications consisting of nudity, sex, or excretion that, 1, appeals to the purient interest of minors, 2, is patently offensive to the prevailing standards in the adult community with respect to what is suitable for minors, and 3, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for minors. This last one seems to get forgotten a lot of the time. And I also want to say, given the statistics on the letter to the editor, I suspect that the prevailing standards in the adult community also support these books in the school. I mostly want to express our appreciation for the media specialists in the schools. Curating our books is a difficult task because there are a variety of students with different needs and ages. And the state, around the country, educators and professionals are looking at books, and our new media specialists are taking advantage of that work when they're choosing our selection. And I much more trust these professionals to choose the books in our library than lay folk pouring through books looking for dirty words or pictures. I want to comment about 2 specific books that have come up in the online discussions. One of the books, It's Perfectly Normal, I bought for my kids when they were approaching puberty. It's a great book. Talking about puberty with your kids is tough, but they've got these 2 little cartoon, a bird and a bee, that provide commentary throughout the book. They really break the ice. I had 2 avid readers so they could read the book and come to me with questions. Yes, there are cartoon depictions of nudity in the book, but they're clearly not salacious, they're educational. So I recommend this book. There's also a book that's so extraordinary for the younger set, and I think it's highly appropriate for this series. It doesn't mean everybody has to read it. It's not required reading, but it should be there. Another book that someone else brought up is the book Flamer, a graphic novel. This was nominated for the 1923 Nutmeg Award. It has already been vetted by, what is his name? It's a committee of school media specialists, public librarians, reading teachers, and also students who nominate this. This is a semi-autobiographical novel about the author's own experience recognizing their sexuality during the last few weeks before they started high school. So it's quite aimed at this particular age group. Yes, there is some graphic stuff in there. It's a graphic novel. And this person is at a Boy Scout camp. So you can imagine what kind of hijinks people are getting up to. But this book has been described online as telling children to participate in a particular sex game because that seems to be starting to happen at one point. But here's the thing. The character, the main protagonist of this book is uncomfortable with that. So he leaves. This is a great lesson for our children. They're going to see things that are uncomfortable in their life. And they need to know how to handle it. The books that people are talking about are not required reading. They're not necessarily the right book for any given person.
And then about 30 seconds.
Okay. If a student comes across something in a book that makes them uncomfortable, or that a parent doesn't want them to read, they can turn the page. They can put the book back on the shelf, or they can walk away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. How are you today? Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Esposito. I'm at 13 Lantern Hill Lane. I have two girls in our school district. One is in middle school, one's about to approaching middle school. I stand and I say here tonight, I do not oppose, nor do I want to ban any books from our children's. What I do want as a parent is transparency and the opportunity to know about when that book is taken out by my daughters so that I can have a controlled conversation with them when they are confused by that subject matter. We have music that has ratings on it. We have video games that have ratings on it. We have movies that have ratings on it for a reason. It's because of the audience and what they can take in and digest as an individual, and if it's appropriate. These books that we are talking about, the last one we talked about, Flamer, which describes boys sitting around ejaculating into a Coke bottle and then drinking it, is not appropriate literature for our children to be looking at or digesting or talking about without parental knowledge. I talked to you about this book, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. I actually read the book, saw the movie, thought it was fantastic. Clearly, the movie was edited because it's PG-13. And the things I'm about to read to you were not within that movie. I'm going to read verbatim what's in here in quotations. And it's uncomfortable for me to read out loud. I can't imagine what it's like for my 12-year-old daughter to read it without context and understanding. We don't say these words in my house. If I were to say it in a school, if they were to say it in a school room, they would be thrown out of your school. They would be suspended if this language was used. If this language was in this movie, it would be NC-17 or X-rated simply because of the vulgar language. And therefore, my 12-year-old daughter shouldn't be able to download it in my school library and read it without my knowledge. Yeah, Earl, I'm going to eat her pussy. Huh? Yeah. Do you even know how to eat pussy? Not really. Papa Gaines never sat you down and said, son, one day you're going to have to eat some pussy? No, but he did teach me how to eat a butthole. When Earl is in full-on gross-out mode, you have to play to him, or you'll feel stupid. God bless that man. Yep. I would teach you to eat some pussy eating techniques, but it's a little complicated. That's a shame. I would need some diagrams and whatnot. Well, tonight, maybe you can draw them up. Son, I don't have time for that. I've got 20 pussies over here that I need to eat. Is that right? I'm on a pussy deadline. Should a 14-year-old be reading this? Should a 14-year-old have the knowledge of reading this in a book without parental guidance? This book was banned. You want to know why? Not because, I mean, this is talking about heterosexual sex. This has nothing to do with any of the other things. This has to do with vulgarity. All right? This was banned because it degrades women and simply because of its explicit language. So for me as a parent within this community to not have knowledge that my child or your child has access to this book and this language without my having the ability to have a discussion with them is not okay. So I'm not asking you to ban this. I'm asking you to look at your guidelines and see if there's a way where we can come to a compromise where books with this type of language and this type of content could be made, as parents, we are aware when it's taken out, or we can give consent whether or not it can't be taken out. Not have free access to everybody if they so choose. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. Holly Reader, 280 Sage Hollow Road. I appreciate your time and your service. So please hear me through as you can. I don't like to have to speak up about something negative because so many positive professional educational practices happen in our district every day. I think the world of it. But it's important to bring to attention a fundamental misalignment of the board's, our district's priorities versus the daily practice in our second largest school in the district. This is a credibility issue, a real one. The very first sentence of our district priorities states that our schools will be physically and emotionally healthy and caring places for learning. So I'm here to advocate for the 486 students at Adams whose needs along these lines are not met every day. So this fall, there were changes in the schedule with new administration. 135 minutes was cut, 2.25 hours out of every week of student free movement out of class time was cut out. So that's just shy, it works out to being just shy of half hour every day. So this is the time when our kids could have been this entire school year, as would be normal, interacting with peers face to face with no cell phone, no screen. Pretty unique opportunity. This year's new schedule goes against CDC recommendations for healthy schools, goes against the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations, and a wealth of research. It was touched on here to the board in January. I don't know if any of you looked it up. So no wonder I and many others hear plenty about continued behavioral issues and classroom disruptions. I've heard of 7th graders having behavioral issues who've never had any such issue at all before. You know, this is a stark change for them from elementary and then from ballroom. I've also recently heard of parents who are seriously considering pulling their child from our district because of this learning environment that they've been enduring the whole year. Which is, you know, hopefully the student can hold on until high school. So I've raised this repeatedly and asked Dr. Mullen. I am not the only one, for sure, but thus far there doesn't seem to be any intended movement. So the vast majority of the schedule change is within a dramatic reduction in lunch and recess from 44 minutes to now only 30. The 44-minute lunch and recess had been put in place by Mike Regan, was one of his improvements to better meet student needs and for school climate. And also he spoke repeatedly and publicly about the importance of recess. So of that 44 minutes, it's reduced to 30, 18 is for lunch, and we have 12 for recess, not counting, you know, moving in and out of the building or anything like that. So if we look at, if you crunch all the numbers, the state's required instructional time, there has been plenty of time still available in the school schedule for recess. It's not like it had to be cut for instructional time, the state's requirements. And there are a number of national organizations, including particularly the American Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, which our district, of course, the CDC, we followed very closely during COVID, that clearly state that recess should be 20 minutes at a minimum, separate from PE and with recess preceding lunch. They're all in agreement, all soundly based on research. So this is what the CDC says. It's quite clearly recommended for healthy schools. It's not buried in a report. It's right there point blank at the top of their webpage. Recess is a regularly scheduled period in the school day for physical activity and play that is monitored by trained staff or volunteers. May I just read this?
You're at 4 minutes, so if it's 10 seconds, yes, otherwise I'm going to ask you to give someone else a chance.
Students are encouraged to be physically active and engage with their peers in activities of their choice at all grade levels, kindergarten through 12th grade. Recess benefits students by increasing their level of physical activity, their social and emotional development, improving their memory, attention, and concentration, helping them to stay on task in the classroom, and
Okay.
reducing disruptive behavior in the
Thank you.
classroom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
I'll come back up and finish the rest. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wanted to address the board this evening? Anybody?
So I'm Deborah Demusis from 18 Sugarloaf Road in Guilford. I've lived in town 42 years. I also have 3 daughters that have gone through the Guilford school system. My last one graduated in 2006, and it was an excellent school for all of them. I've been a little disappointed in the last few years. I believe it is not the school that it used to be. I worked in the Guilford High School for 21 years, and I retired 3.5 years ago. And I could see a lot of changes coming. A lot of our students coming into the school didn't seem as prepared as previous freshman years. And teachers had also talked about this amongst themselves. So the book is Perfectly Normal, which would be a great book for a parent to purchase and review with their children, but not to have download access to and read on their own. So they want us to believe this book is perfectly normal. It is meant to teach children 10 and older about sexual health, emotional health, and relationships. And it contains sections on puberty, pregnancy, and sexual orientation. There are some inappropriate illustrations in this book and illustrations of sex acts. The book describes sexual intercourse, having sex, can involve the penis and the vagina, or the mouth and the genitals, or the penis and the anus. This sensitive information should be presented/shared between parent and child with supervision. Many children are not mature enough to consume this information. Exposure to these books puts our children in an emotionally and physically unsafe environment. The visuals and language in these books are inappropriate. Our children should be protected, their innocence and youth need to be respected. They should not be exposed to information they are not ready to digest, especially from someone other than their parents. These are highly sensitive topics and should be between parent, child, and professionals. And I'm alluding to the previous books that were read and this book. CRE, SEL, DEI, CT, ESG, along with comprehensive sexuality education, SSE, and gender fluidity either are or soon will be introduced in the younger grades starting in kindergarten. This curriculum is about sexualizing and grooming children. As Guilford taxpayers, we pay approximately $24,000 per pupil. Our college readiness score is 43.8 according to US News and World Report for high schools in Connecticut. Guilford has approximately 3,100 students, about 34%, which is about 984 students are not proficient in math. And 15%, 461 students are not proficient in English language arts. The focus in our schools needs to be on the academic education of our children. The federal government, the state, and our BOE need to stay away from sexualizing our children.
My name's Bob Harrington. I live at 464 Granite Road in Guilford. I wanted to talk about a lot of the things that are going on with books that people are concerned about. And so I understand that a lot of people are concerned about their children having access to something that they don't think they're ready to. It's a concern I have with my children as well. But when I think they may have access to it, which I know is going to be sooner than I think it will, because that's the way the world is, I talk to them about it beforehand. Because I know that these books that are out there, particularly things that are letting children know about the LGBTQ community and things that are normal, will save lives. There are children out there who will kill themselves if they don't have access to understanding that they're normal. There's nothing wrong with them. And if I have to pay a little extra attention to what my son is doing to give them a chance to come into contact with that information that they can't get elsewhere, that they may have to get without their parents knowing, because maybe their parent will do something to them, then so be it. That child's safety is worth the extra effort I have to go through to make sure that my child can deal with things that may be confusing, which I have to do anyways. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lizzie Rosenthal. I live at 581 Jennifer's Drive in Guilford. I just want to quickly pick up on a theme of my prior speaker, Mr. Harrington. Thank you. The idea that if you think your children are going to be exposed to things that are inappropriate or uncomfortable, you talk to them about it first. And I would echo that sentiment and remind the board that it's the parents' job to educate their children, and it's the school's job to provide a free learning environment. And it's a highly slippery slope to start banning books because parents don't want to take responsibility for educating their children about what they are comfortable with them seeing or doing or reading, and not comfortable talking to them about the complications and complexities of the world. And so I urge the board to remember that. I know that there isn't currently any complaint before you, but I have the sense that after this evening, there will be official complaints about certain books in the library system. And this is a very slippery slope, and the board should stand strong in the face of efforts to censor what children are exposed to. And everyone should understand that those conversations need to begin at home. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Esposito. I live at 13 Lantern Hill Lane. There's been a lot of talk about banning. It's not about banning. The thing is, these books, it's not your place to give it to our kids. And it's not my place to give it to anybody else's kids. I had these books in my home this weekend with other kids there and other family there. And I put them away, because it's not my place to show them to other children. If you want to have them available to children, that's fine. And if parents want to take them out and show it and go over it with their kids, that's fine too. You know, it's not about judging anybody or making anyone feel marginalized or unaccepted, but the parents should be made aware. There's got to be a way that we can communicate and make it accessible, but have the parents aware that these books are being given to their children. So that's what it's about. It's not about banning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dawn Carafino from 34 Driftwood Lane here in Guilford. I have 6 children, 2 of which were voracious readers when they were younger, and the 2 younger ones who are not so much. So I want to thank you. I want to send thanks to the immediate professionals in this district who encourage my two non-voracious readers to read books that they may or may not have had some interest in prior to entering the library. My two younger children have the advantage of having a sister, an older sister, who is a member of the LGBT community. My daughter is 25 years old now, very proud to be her mother. She is a UConn grad and is now working, she has a degree in molecular cell biology and working on some super secret drug that I can't know anything about, neither can you. I do want to say that my daughter did not have the advantage of a Guilford education. We did not live in this state, let alone in this town. She, before she came out to us as a gay woman, she was 14. So at the age that you're very concerned about children coming into this into the school and reading things in this library that may or may not be appropriate by your standards. It is my belief, and it is now been verified by her since I talked to her about this today, that it was a long process for her to come out to us. And so prior to her being 14 years old and coming out to us as a gay woman, as a gay person, she was many years trying to figure herself out, trying to figure out how to make that change, make that acknowledgement in her life and to her family. It would have been beneficial to her and to us as her parents to have had more literature available to her, and maybe even without our knowing about it, since we didn't know at that point that she was gay. Had she had some of the literature, and I completely understand some of the concerns about the language and things like that, but I also kind of, as being as old as I am, remember hearing very similar things from my parents, friends, and about a movie that we couldn't get enough of and a soundtrack that we couldn't get enough of called Grease. There was a lot of references and innuendo in that movie, and then at the same time, because I'm a child of the 80s, The Outsiders. These are now classics. These are things that are so benign to us. And I'm not saying that the things that you've heard read from these books are going to become something that's benign, but we are an evolving society. And we are a society that is now accepting and loving of our children and our neighbors' children who come to us and tell us that they are gay or they are trans and they may need changes in their lives, and we may need to adapt to the way that they feel and think. And I am grateful and thankful that in this district, there is literature available to our kids at whatever age it is appropriate. And I certainly do not want to see these books disappear from the library, but I also want to acknowledge that I do understand where you're coming from when you are afraid of, or
30 seconds.
I'm afraid of or concerned about language and things. But building back on the previous speakers, that is my job as the mom to talk to my kids prior to or during the time that they are reading these books, and I'm for it and I'm here for it. Thank you. I won't take more of your time. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the board? No one? All right. Oh. I'm sorry. Did you wanted to talk some more?
Yes, if there's no one else. Right.
Okay, two more minutes, but we do want to close up. We have an executive session we have to get to as well.
Yep. So the CDC and other organizations tell us that recess should be a minimum of 20 minutes, different and separate from PE, and that it improves social and emotional development, improves memory and attention, concentration, helps students stay on task in the classroom, and reduces disruptive classroom behavior. So importantly, all these last three match what Dr. Mullen has publicly reported regarding behavioral issues going on at school, and it's not a surprise to us as parents. And as she said, a significant number of students still have issues with this. They're, especially this 8th grade class who are, going to go on to high school really soon, who's become sadly infamous, So there's additional research that indicates the important role of recess in terms of negotiation and problem solving, self-regulation, student agency and self-advocacy, mental health and executive functioning, and reducing stress and anxiety. So the American Academy of Pediatrics in 2013, and they reaffirmed it recently, recess is a necessary break in the day for optimizing a child's social, emotional, physical, and cognitive development. Continues with, it should not be withheld for academic or punitive reasons, which as of this year, that's part of CC law. People may not be aware of that. So, well, isn't it quite, don't some schools just have quite nearly no recess? Well, I would say, first of all, we at Guilford are not following a pack. We're leading, as we know from statewide measures, and our professionals design and guide the kids' education. And also, secondly, our other middle school, Baldwin, has come to place a high value on both recess and lunch, which is more than double that of Adam's time. Doug Hamill's developed what he calls a student-centered schedule. Shouldn't every schedule be a student-centered schedule? Doesn't that make sense?
Oh, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up here in another 2 minutes.
And so 3 other districts contacting ours, as you've heard, wanting to learn more about Baldwin's middle school schedule. Adams is not in alignment. So lastly, indoor recess. There is none. As the principal stated, there is.
Holly, I'm going to ask you to wrap up, please.
Okay, the students sit in their seats the entire time and movies are played regularly. What more of a red flag about pacifying our students do we need than that? Okay, so it's not emotionally healthy, it's not physically healthy, it's not caring. And it's definitely not what Mike Regan put in place. Hello, so there are so many reasons that
Holly, I'm really going to ask you to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody, is there anybody else? Going once? Going twice? All right. That brings us to the end of our most of our meeting tonight. We do have now an executive session. The board will recess into executive session. When we come out of executive session, we will then adjourn the meeting. However, there will be no votes or discussion following public session. So just wanted to make that clear. So I am going to ask for a motion to go into executive session. Thank you. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.